There are individuals who fail to understand where they fit in society, and it falls to me to show them their position. The early morning light creates elongated shadows stretching over Westfield Academy's immaculate campus as Caspian Holloway straightens his lacrosse team captain's band, his cold blue eyes examining the incoming students with predatory focus as he surveys what he considers his domain. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches with immaculately arranged golden hair and the self-assured bearing of someone who has never been denied, Caspian embodies everything this exclusive preparatory institution represents. Generational wealth, established lineages, and the firm conviction that certain people naturally occupy positions of power, while others function as instruments for their advancement. His fingertips tap rhythmically on the premium leather surface of his high-end backpack as he identifies his morning target for amusement. Entering through the academy entrance on a worn Mongoose BMX bicycle that has witnessed many decades is Indigo Blackwood. Known by everyone as Indy, her raven-colored hair reflects the early sunlight as she cycles forward, apparently unaware of the approaching conflict. The 17-year-old maneuvers through the labyrinth of high-end automobiles with experienced skill, each vehicle valued at more than her family's combined annual earnings. Indy's father maintains employment at Blackwood Auto Repair, working extended hours, his rough hands imparting knowledge about mechanical systems, metalwork, and the subtle equilibrium between force and precision. Her mother performs cleaning duties in commercial buildings during overnight hours, maintaining floors while harboring aspirations for her daughter's prospects. In combination, they forfeit everything so Indigo can study at Westfield Academy through a comprehensive academic grant, an accomplishment that ought to generate pride but instead marks her as a target. The bicycle she rides communicates its own narrative of nocturnal excursions and abandoned aspirations. What seems to be an ordinary vintage bicycle has been carefully preserved by someone who comprehends every element, every minute modification that converts standard metal into something remarkable. The structure displays marks and indentations that indicate adventures beyond these maintained educational premises. However, none of her fellow students would suspect the genuine history concealed beneath that aged surface. Sage Winters signals with enthusiasm from her position near the library entrance, her courier bag virtually overflowing with sophisticated literature volumes. The reserved young woman wearing wire-framed spectacles and possessing comprehensive knowledge of motorcycle engineering functions as Indy's sole genuine companion in this environment of social conflict. Their friendship developed through shared mealtimes in vacant classrooms and hushed discussions about aspirations extending well beyond Westfield's vine-covered structures. Sage possesses knowledge about the late-night workshop sessions, the manner in which Indy's eyes brighten when discussing transmission ratios and suspension mechanisms, and the enigmatic marks on her companion's knuckles that communicate stories Indy has never revealed. Ideal timing, Caspian murmurs to his gathered associates, his words containing the effortless cruelty of someone who has never experienced genuine repercussions. 3 additional final-year students position themselves beside him, each displaying the identical expression of privileged entertainment. Bradford Kensington III straightens his yacht club necktie while the Morrison siblings exchange meaningful looks that guarantee amusement at another person's cost. Gentlemen, I believe our humble resident from the mobile home community requires instruction about the established hierarchy. Knox Rivera observes from his protective station near the primary entrance, his experienced hands clutching his coffee container with mounting strain. The former clandestine racing technician who transitioned to educational institution security, personnel has observed this pattern excessively throughout the previous 2 years. However, something regarding the young woman on that specific bicycle activates recollections he has attempted desperately to suppress. The manner in which she positions herself, the informal confidence with which she operates the machine, the automatic modifications that indicate physical memory acquired through innumerable hours of intensive high-risk training under darkness's protection. Half a decade ago, Knox Rivera served as the most desired technician in the clandestine BMX racing network, a concealed realm where adolescents risked everything for the excitement of velocity and the acknowledgement that accompanied triumph. He recalls Ghost Rider, the enigmatic participant who materialized apparently from obscurity to control every competition, whose identification remained concealed behind protective headgear that never was removed in public view. He recalls the evening ghostwriter disappeared following a terrible collision that resulted in 3 participants requiring hospitalization, and he recalls the mongoose bicycle that vanished together with its celebrated operator. The morning assembly starts to congregate as Caspian positions himself directly in Indy's trajectory, compelling her to apply brakes forcefully mere feet from the academy's primary entrance. The harsh sound of rubber against pavement penetrates through the morning conversation like a sharp instrument, attracting interested attention, and the unavoidable mobile devices already documenting what guarantees to be another installment in Westfield's continuous class conflict. Students exit from costly automobiles and create a loose perimeter, some authentically worried but the majority anticipating amusement. Well, well, Caspian's words travel across the courtyard with deliberate projection, guaranteeing maximum spectator engagement. Observe what the morning delivered. I believed we established a mutual understanding yesterday, Indy. That outdated piece of refuse genuinely doesn't have a place in an environment like this, and you don't either. The harsh mockery from his supporters emphasizes each statement like recognition at an especially malicious comedic performance. Bradford modifies his luxury timepiece while recording, already constructing captions that will optimize social network influence. The Morrison siblings position themselves on Caspian's flanks, their matching expressions of contempt guaranteeing support if their commander requires supplementary assistance. This transcends simple harassment. It constitutes performance designed to strengthen social hierarchies and remind everyone of their appropriate position in Westfield's deliberately assembled ecosystem. The instant Caspian positioned himself in her trajectory, obstructing her bicycle with that aggressive expression, you understood this wasn't simply another educational day. If this narrative has already captured your interest and you desire to observe how extensively this confrontation develops, remember to select like and subscribe for additional content. And if you wish to assist these compelling narratives reaching additional audiences, the appreciation button provides significant help. Thank you tremendously for your presence here. Now, let's observe what transpires when entitled, Advantage encounters someone who declines to retreat. Indy's hands maintain steadiness on the handlebar grips as she gradually dismounts, her actions careful and regulated, despite the apparent antagonism emanating from the assembly obstructing her path. She has acquired knowledge throughout 2 years at Westfield that displaying apprehension only strengthens the aggressor. However, something more profound stirs in her chest as Caspian's statements achieve their designated effect. This bicycle isn't merely conveyance. It constitutes the final physical connection to a component of herself she believed she had successfully concealed beneath academic accomplishments and grant prerequisites. I possess every entitlement to exist here, she articulates quietly, her words barely transmitting over the expanding murmur of the assembling crowd. My scholarship documentation and my academic performance confirm this. Scholarship. Caspian expels the term as if it physically pains his mouth to create the sounds. You observe that constitutes precisely the difficulty with this compassionate administration. This academy was constructed for families who have secured their position through multiple generations of achievement, not for charitable recipients, who believe a few satisfactory examination results entitle them to associate with their superiors. The social media tag begins materializing in immediate time as numerous devices capture every perspective of the confrontation from various viewpoints. The phrase "trailer girl" begins accumulating attention within minutes, accompanied by commentary, ranging from compassionate encouragement to brutal ridicule. Social networking converts personal humiliation into public exhibition with the efficient ruthlessness that only adolescent cruelty can accomplish. Anonymous profiles begin distributing humorous images within seconds, converting Indy's morning travel into amusement for thousands of unknown observers. From her location near the library, Sage Winters advances through the assembly with increasing concern, recognizing the hazardous transformation in her companion's bearing. She has observed Indy manage confrontation previously, witnessed her withstand months of subtle and explicit harassment. However, something regarding this morning feels altered. There exists a strain in Indy's shoulders, a specific manner she's grasping the handlebars, that reminds Sage of discussions about the previous days that always concluded suddenly when pressed for specifics. Perhaps you didn't comprehend me distinctly yesterday, Caspian proceeds. his words ascending to guarantee maximum spectator engagement and ideal recording quality. Allow me to illustrate a more distinct representation of reality. Your category doesn't have a place here among actual success narratives. The sooner you acknowledge that essential truth and relocate somewhere more suitable for your social position, the superior it will be for all parties concerned. Indy's dark eyes scan across the faces encircling her, identifying the combination of amusement, secondhand discomfort, and morbid fascination that always accompanies these public exhibitions. Certain students appear authentically uncomfortable, but lack the bravery to interfere, while others record with barely hidden pleasure at observing another person's destruction. This constitutes morning amusement to them, a live-action performance before initial class commences, accompanied by distinct heroes and antagonists for their social networking narratives. Knox Rivera deserts his protective station and commences advancing through the assembly, his experienced eye detecting details that would escape informal observation. The young woman's position has transformed almost imperceptibly, her mass distribution altering in manners that activate warning signals in his recollection. He understands that specific defensive bearing, understands the minute modifications that convert a casual bicycle operator into something considerably more hazardous. His communication device crackles with administrative conversation, but he disregards the routine morning declarations. Concentrated entirely on preventing what his intuitions communicate to him is about to become a circumstance that extends considerably beyond typical educational discipline. "I'm not departing anywhere," Indy articulates, her words gaining power despite the tremor she can't completely suppress. "I secured my position here identically like anyone else, and I'm not permitting you or anyone else to remove it from me." "Secured your position." Caspian's expression of amusement contains a harsh edge that penetrates through the morning atmosphere like fractured glass. "You believe completing certain forms and composing a sympathetic narrative essay regarding ascending above your circumstances constitutes securing anything. Genuine acquisition transpires over generations through constructing something that endures. Your family repairs other people's damaged possessions. Mine constructs enterprises. The initial physical intensification arrives without warning. Caspian's costly leather footwear connecting with the bicycle's forward rim with sufficient force to transmit vibrations through the complete structure. The metallic sound reverberates across the courtyard like a weapon discharge, and Indy's response is immediate and revealing. Rather than retreating in apprehension or surprise, she advances closer to her machine, her physical positioning transforming into something that appears almost defensive, almost possessive. "Stop." Indy's words contain a distinct quality now, something that makes several students in the forward position take an unconscious retreat backward, despite not comprehending why. "Don't contact my bicycle." "Or what precisely?" Caspian's expression of satisfaction expands as he delivers another impact, this time targeting the posterior wheel with intentional precision designed to produce maximum destruction. "What precisely are you going to accomplish regarding it, trailer refuse? Weep. Escape home to father's modest grease technician workshop and inform him the hostile wealthy children were selecting on you?" The second collision transmits a distinct variety of vibration through the structure, and something essential transforms in Indy's expression. The apprehension evaporates like morning condensation, substituted by a frigid concentration that Knox identifies from a distinct time and location entirely. Her digits modify their grasp one final time, locating the precise location that once terrorized professional competitors throughout the clandestine network, a grip that signified the distinction between triumph and devastating collision at velocities that could terminate life. Bradford Kensington commences, providing commentary for his live broadcast audience, supplying descriptive analysis as if this constituted a sporting competition rather than systematic harassment. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're observing a classic Westfield Academy incident here. Caspian Holloway, prospective Duke lacrosse athlete and successor to Holloway Banking, imparting certain valuable life instructions to our scholarship recipient. The inquiry is whether Trailer Park Barbie has acquired her position yet." The Morrison siblings advance closer, creating a more compact semicircle that prevents simple departure while guaranteeing ideal camera perspectives for maximum viral potential. Their coordinated actions indicate deliberate coordination, suggesting this performance has been practiced on previous victims who lacked the social network following to generate serious repercussions. Final warning, Indy articulates, her words barely above a murmur, but somehow penetrating through the morning disturbance with crystalline clarity that seems to suspend time itself. Retreat away from my bicycle. Caspian's response is to seize the handlebars directly with both appendages, attempting to extract the machine away from her grasp, while simultaneously asserting physical dominance over what he perceives as a powerless adversary. It constitutes the catalyst that converts 2 years of careful restraint into explosive action. Indy doesn't simply resist, she flows with his motion, utilizing his own momentum and superior leverage against him in manners that defy every assumption about her size, strength, and background. The bicycle becomes an extension of her physical form as she vaults onto the seat in one fluid motion, her feet locating the pedals with the precision of muscle memory that never truly fades despite years of suppression. Caspian's grasp on the handlebars becomes his downfall as Indy executes a perfect forward wheel elevation, the heavy metal rim connecting with his chest with sufficient force to lift his 6'2" frame completely off the ground. Knocks. Rivera arrives just in time to observe the completion of a movement. Sequence he hasn't seen in 5 years. A signature combination that once made Ghost Rider legendary throughout the underground racing world. The forward wheel strike flows seamlessly into a posterior wheel swing that sends Caspian's supporters scrambling for safety as their invincible leader crashes backward onto the manicured lawn, his perfect image shattered along with several ribs and his ability to breathe properly. The crowd's gasps transform into shocked silence as the golden boy of Westfield Academy lies gasping on the ground, his expensive clothing torn and his usually perfect hair now decorated with grass stains and morning dew. But Indy isn't finished with her demonstration. The final element of her signature move involves a perfect manual balance that allows her to hold position directly over her fallen opponent, the bike's frame casting a shadow across his face like symbolic dominance. Knox Rivera finds himself applauding involuntarily before catching himself, recognition flooding through him like a dam breaking under tremendous pressure. Ghost Rider hasn't lost a single step in 5 years of hiding, and the precision of that triple combination proves that some skills never truly fade regardless of how deeply they're buried. The scholarship girl isn't just defending herself, she's announcing her return to a world that assumed she was gone forever. Observing Indy balance perfectly over Caspian. After that incredible combination, with her bike positioned like a throne above the school's golden boy, what would you have done in her position? Would you have walked away quietly, or made sure the message was crystal clear for everyone recording? Comment below. I'd love to hear how you'd handle someone who thought they could destroy what matters most to you. The morning sun illuminates the aftermath like a spotlight on a theatrical stage. Indy balanced perfectly on her vintage machine while Caspian Holloway gasps for breath on the ground below. Every smartphone in the courtyard captures the moment from different angles, but none of them understand the true significance of what they've just witnessed. This isn't just a victory over a bully. It's the resurrection of a legend that the underground racing world thought was buried forever. Sage Winters pushes through the crowd with renewed urgency, her quiet demeanor transformed by protective instincts as she reaches her friend's side. She's never seen Indy move like that, never witnessed the transformation from scholarship student to something that looked almost supernatural in its precision and control. Questions flood her mind, but the immediate priority involves extracting them both from a situation that's about to explode beyond anyone's ability to control. Knox Rivera's radio crackles with increasingly urgent administrative messages as word spreads throughout the school's communication network. Principal Matthews demands immediate reports, while nurse practitioners prepare for potential injuries. But Knox ignores the bureaucratic chaos, his attention focused entirely on the girl who just shattered every assumption about power dynamics at Westfield Academy. He knows what comes next, knows the questions that are inevitable, and knows that after today, nothing will ever be the same for anyone involved. The silence stretches for several heartbeats before chaos erupts across the courtyard. Students surge forward in multiple directions, some rushing to assist Caspian, others attempting to get closer to the action, all of them talking simultaneously in the way that only teenage crowds can manage when witnessing something that will be discussed for years. But through all the commotion, Indy remains motionless on her bike, her chest rising and falling steadily as she watches the aftermath of her decision play out in real time across dozens of phone screens. Bradford Kensington's live stream viewer count explodes into the thousands as notifications ping across multiple social media platforms. The hashtags multiply exponentially. Bike Justice, Westfield Showdown, Trailer Girl Fights, Golden Boy Down. Within minutes, local news stations begin monitoring the feeds, recognizing the viral potential of private school drama combined with spectacular athletic performance and clear-class warfare undertones. Knox. Rivera pushes through the crowd with the authority that comes from his official position, but his eyes never leave the girl who just demolished every assumption about victim and aggressor dynamics. He knows what he has to do, understands the reports that must be filed, and recognizes the investigations that are now inevitable. But beneath the administrative requirements, a deeper knowledge churns in his gut. Ghost Rider is back, and the real race is just beginning. Because when legends return from retirement, they rarely come back alone. And Knox Rivera remembers exactly why Ghost Rider disappeared 5 years ago. The name Maxwell Reaper still gives him nightmares. And if Ghost Rider is racing again, it's only a matter of time before her most dangerous opponent learns about her resurrection. The morning sun climbs higher as emergency protocols activate throughout Westfield Academy, but none of the administrators rushing toward the scene understand that they're not dealing with a simple bullying incident gone wrong. They're witnessing the return of someone who once dominated the most dangerous racing circuit in the country, and her comeback performance just went viral with millions of witnesses. The real question isn't what happens next at Westfield Academy. The real question is who else might be watching those viral videos and what they'll do when they realize Ghost Rider never actually died in that crash 5 years ago. The emergency whistle pierces through the chaos as Principal Catherine Matthews arrives at the scene, her usually composed demeanor cracking as she takes in the unprecedented sight before her. Caspian Holloway, the untouchable golden boy whose family donated the new science wing, lies groaning on the perfectly manicured lawn while a scholarship student balances above him on what appears to be a weapon disguised as vintage transportation. The optics alone could destroy careers, but the dozens of phones broadcasting live to social media platforms transformed this from a disciplinary issue into a public relations nightmare of epic proportions. "Everyone, step back immediately," Principal Matthews commands, her voice carrying the authority of 20 years in education administration. "Mr. Rivera, secure the area. Miss Blackwood, dismount that bicycle and report to my office immediately." But Knox Rivera hesitates, his weathered face reflecting an internal struggle that has nothing to do with following administrative protocol. He knows this girl's true identity, understands the significance of what just happened, and recognizes that treating this as a simple disciplinary matter could trigger consequences that extend far beyond Westfield Academy's carefully controlled environment. His radio crackles with demands for situation reports, but his attention remains fixed on Indy's face, searching for signs of the person he once knew in a different context entirely. "Knox," Principal Matthews snaps, using his first name to emphasize the urgency. "I need crowd control and medical assessment for Mr. Holloway immediately." Indy slowly lowers her bike back to normal position, but she doesn't dismount. Instead, she surveys the crowd with the calculating gaze of someone evaluating potential threats and escape routes. The transformation from scholarship student to something far more dangerous remains visible in her posture, in the way her hands maintain their grip, in the alertness that suggests this confrontation might not be finished. "I acted in self-defense," she states clearly, her voice carrying across the courtyard with deliberate projection. "He damaged my property and physically assaulted me." Everything is recorded from multiple angles. Bradford Kensington's live stream comment section explodes with real-time reactions. As viewers dissect every frame of the confrontation, legal experts emerge from the anonymous masses, offering contradictory analyses of self-defense laws, while armchair psychologists diagnose personality disorders, and social media influencers craft hot takes designed to maximize engagement. The incident transcends local school politics, becoming a flashpoint for broader discussions about class warfare, institutional privilege, and the limits of acceptable response to systematic oppression. Dr. Sarah Chen, the school nurse, rushes across the courtyard with her emergency kit, but her approach toward Caspian slows as she observes his breathing patterns and general responsiveness. Her medical training recognizes the signs of someone who's had the wind knocked out of them rather than sustained serious injury. though the dramatic groaning suggests he's milking the situation for maximum sympathy and potential legal advantage. "Can you breathe normally?" Dr. Chen asks professionally, her hands checking for obvious injuries while maintaining appropriate medical distance. "Any sharp pains in your chest or difficulty moving your limbs?" Caspian's response comes out as a theatrical wheeze that wouldn't fool anyone with actual medical training, but plays perfectly for the cameras still broadcasting his performance to increasingly large
audiences. She attacked me with that weapon.
"I could have been killed. My father. My father will hear about this." The mention of his father sends a visible ripple through the administrative staff present. Richard Holloway III serves on the school board, controls significant funding streams, and wields the kind of political influence that can end careers with strategically placed phone calls. Principal Matthews' expression tightens as she calculates the potential fallout from disciplining the son of someone who essentially owns her employment contract. But Knox Rivera steps forward, his security badge catching the morning light as he positions himself between Indy and the growing crowd of authority figures. Principal Matthews, "I witnessed the entire incident from beginning to end. The girl acted in legitimate self-defense after being physically assaulted and having her property damaged. The video evidence will support that conclusion. Mr. Rivera," Principal Matthews warns, "your job is security, not legal interpretation. Please escort Miss Blackwood to the administrative offices while we sort this situation out appropriately." No, Knox's refusal carries the weight of someone who's made a decision that transcends job security. "I've watched this kid get harassed and bullied for 2 years without adequate protection from this administration. Today she stood up for herself when the adults responsible for her safety failed to do their jobs. I won't be part of punishing her for defending herself." The live stream audience witnesses something unprecedented. A school security guard publicly defying administrative authority in defense of a scholarship student who just demolished the untouchable Golden Boy. Comment sections flood with fire emojis and supportive messages as viewers recognize authentic moral courage in action. Local news stations begin dispatching crews as the story transitions from viral social media content to legitimate news coverage. Sage Winters appears at Indy's shoulder, her usual quiet demeanor replaced by fierce protective instincts. "Indy, don't say anything else without your parents present. And definitely don't go anywhere alone with any of these people." Her words carry surprising legal sophistication for someone who spends most of her time reading literature in empty classrooms. But Sage's mother works as a paralegal, and family dinner conversations often revolve around individual rights, due process, and the importance of proper legal representation when institutions attempt to scapegoat individuals who threaten established power structures. Principal Matthews' radio crackles, with an incoming call that makes her face go pale. "Mrs. Matthews, this is Superintendent Bradley. I'm seeing social media reports about an incident at your school involving the Holloway family. Please confirm current status and ensure all protocols are being followed." Precisely. The chain of command pressure intensifies as regional and state educational authorities begin monitoring the situation through viral video content rather than official administrative channels. The optics of punishing a scholarship student for defending herself against the privileged son of a major donor create political headaches that extend far beyond local school board meetings. Meanwhile, Caspian's recovery becomes suspiciously rapid as he realizes his performance isn't generating the expected sympathy from the crowd. Several students begin openly questioning his dramatic displays, particularly those who witnessed his aggressive behavior leading up to the confrontation. The narrative shifts in real time as eyewitness accounts contradict his victim portrayal. "Wait," calls out Jessica Hartford, a junior who rarely involves herself in school politics but possesses an unshakable moral compass. "I saw the whole thing from the beginning." Caspian blocked her path, kicked her bike twice, and grabbed her handlebars before she did anything. She asked him to stop multiple times. "This isn't assault. This is justice." Her statement triggers a cascade of similar testimonials from other students who witnessed the buildup but initially remained silent. The power of viral documentation emboldens previously voiceless witnesses to contradict official narratives in real time, creating a democratic accountability mechanism that traditional authority structures struggle to control or suppress. Knox Rivera's radio suddenly crackles with an unexpected transmission that makes his blood run cold. "Knox, This is Detective Morrison from Metro Police. We need to discuss some vintage motorcycle parts that just surfaced in an evidence review. Can you meet us this afternoon regarding the Maxwell Reaper investigation? The timing feels too coincidental to be random chance. Knox glances at Indy with growing alarm, recognizing that her public emergence as Ghost Rider might have triggered attention from people far more dangerous than school administrators or angry parents. Maxwell Reaper's underground racing network included individuals who settled disputes with violence rather than viral videos, and if they're monitoring social media for signs of Ghost Rider's return. Today's incident just painted a target on her back. Indy, he says quietly, moving closer while maintaining awareness of the cameras still broadcasting. We need to talk privately today. There are things about your bike, about your past, that you need to understand before this goes any further. But their private conversation gets interrupted by the arrival of someone who changes the entire dynamic of the situation. A black sedan pulls up to the curb with the kind of understated authority that suggests federal rather than local jurisdiction. Two individuals in conservative business attire emerge, their movements and positioning indicating law enforcement training that transcends typical school security protocols. Principal Matthews, the woman identifies herself with professional courtesy. Agent Sarah Kim, FBI Cybercrimes Division. We're investigating social media platforms being used to coordinate and broadcast violence among minors. We'd like to speak with all parties involved in today's incident. The federal involvement transforms the situation from school discipline to potential criminal investigation. But the focus on cybercrimes rather than physical assault suggests they're more interested in the viral documentation than the actual confrontation. Agent Kim's partner begins, photographing the scene while she conducts preliminary interviews with key witnesses. Miss Blackwood, Agent Kim approaches with practiced neutrality. We understand you were involved in a physical altercation that was extensively documented and broadcast on multiple social media platforms. We'd like to hear your version of events. She defended herself. Knox intervenes, stepping into his protective role despite the federal implications. Everything she did was legal self-defense, and the video evidence supports that conclusion completely. Agent Kim's partner shows her something on his phone that makes both federal agents exchange meaningful glances. Whatever they're seeing triggers a shift in their approach that suggests this incident connects to larger patterns or investigations they're already monitoring. Mr. Rivera. Agent Kim's tone becomes more focused. We understand you have extensive experience with underground racing circuits. Are you familiar with any individuals who might use social media to identify and target former participants in illegal racing activities? The question hits Knox like a physical blow as he realizes the federal agents aren't investigating the school incident at all. They're using it as a pretext to gather intelligence about underground racing networks, specifically focusing on individuals who might be monitoring viral content for signs of former competitors. Maxwell Reaper's organization operated across state lines, used sophisticated digital communication networks, and left a trail of violence that attracted federal attention years ago. I need to speak with my attorney, Knox responds carefully, recognizing that his cooperation could inadvertently expose Indy to dangers she doesn't yet understand. And this young woman needs legal representation before answering any questions about anything beyond today's school incident. The federal intervention creates an unexpected protection for Indy, as local authorities hesitate to proceed with disciplinary action while FBI agents conduct their investigation. Principal Matthews finds herself caught between board pressure to punish the scholarship student and federal requests to preserve evidence and witness availability. Caspian's father arrives in a convoy of expensive vehicles that includes his personal attorney, a private investigator, and what appears to be a crisis management specialist whose job involves controlling narrative damage for wealthy families. Richard Holloway III emerges from his Tesla with the commanding presence of someone accustomed to bending institutions to his will through strategic application of financial and political leverage. Principal Matthews. His voice carries the authority of someone who signs the checks that fund her salary. I trust appropriate disciplinary measures are being implemented immediately. Son was viciously assaulted with a weapon, and I expect swift justice. But Agent Kim intercepts the conversation with federal authority that transcends local power dynamics. Mr. Holloway, your son's incident is now part of an ongoing federal investigation into cyber-enabled violence coordination. We'll need to interview him regarding his social media activities and any communications he may have had with other individuals about planning or documenting confrontations with fellow students. The revelation that federal agents are investigating the viral documentation rather than treating it as evidence shifts the entire legal landscape. Suddenly, those who filmed and broadcast the incident face potential scrutiny for their role in promoting violence through social media amplification, while Indy's actions become secondary to the federal investigation of digital platforms being used to coordinate and monetize conflict among minors. Knox Rivera realizes this is the moment to reveal what he knows before federal agents discover it through their own investigation. Agent Kim, there's something you need to understand about Miss Blackwood's background. She's not just a random scholarship student. 5 years ago, she was known in underground racing circuits as Ghost Rider, and her sudden public emergence today might have attracted attention from individuals with extensive criminal histories. The federal agent's immediate interest in this revelation confirms Knox's worst fears. They're not investigating a school incident. They're tracking someone who's been monitoring social media for signs of Ghost Rider's return. Someone whose interest in her resurrection poses dangers that extend far beyond school politics. As if summoned by the conversation, Indy's phone buzzes with a text message from an unknown number. Ghost Rider lives. The real race begins tonight. Riverside Warehouse District. Come alone, or your friends start disappearing. Knox Rivera sees her face go pale as she reads the message, and he knows that Maxwell Reaper has been watching the viral videos, waiting for this moment. The school confrontation wasn't the end of anything. It was an announcement that brought her back onto the radar of the most dangerous person from her past. Agent Kim. Knox's voice carries new urgency. Miss Blackwood has just received what appears to be a direct threat. We need to secure her location immediately and coordinate with local law enforcement. Have you received any communications that might be related to your previous involvement in underground racing activities? Agent Kim asks Indy, her professional demeanor now tinged with genuine concern. We need to get you somewhere safe, Knox whispers urgently, recognizing that federal protection might be her only chance of surviving whatever Maxwell Reaper has planned. Right now, before he realizes you're surrounded by law enforcement, but as they begin moving toward the federal agent's vehicle, Knox notices something that makes his blood freeze. Across the street, barely visible through the crowd of emergency vehicles and news crews, a figure in dark clothing watches the proceedings through high-powered binoculars. The watcher's position provides perfect surveillance of everyone involved while remaining outside the security perimeter established by school and federal authorities. Maxwell Reaper isn't waiting for tonight's confrontation. He's already here, studying his prey and planning the next move in a game that began 5 years ago when Ghost Rider disappeared after a crash that was never actually investigated as thoroughly as it should have been. The morning sun climbs higher over Westfield Academy as federal agents, local authorities, school administrators, and angry parents create a circus of competing jurisdictions and conflicting agendas. But through it all, the most dangerous player remains invisible in plain sight, watching and waiting for the perfect moment to remind Ghost Rider why she disappeared in the first place. Knox Rivera keys his radio one final time before federal agents confiscate it as evidence. All units, we have a credible threat to student safety. Unknown individual conducting surveillance from across the street. This is not a drill, but when security personnel arrive at the reported location, they find nothing except tire tracks from a motorcycle that accelerated away at high speed, leaving behind only the faint scent of racing fuel and the promise that tonight's confrontation will determine whether Ghost Rider's resurrection becomes a triumph or a tragedy that makes her previous crash look like a minor accident. The real race is just beginning, and this time, the stakes involve more than underground glory or teenage pride. This time, Maxwell Reaper is playing for keeps, and he's had 5 years to plan the perfect revenge against the only competitor who ever made him look vulnerable. As federal agents escort Indy toward their vehicle for protective custody, her vintage mongoose bike catches the afternoon light one final time, its scarred frame holding secrets that could either save her life or seal her fate when the sun goes down and the real games begin. Kim's partner receives an urgent call that makes both federal agents exchange grim looks. We've got movement at 3 separate locations, he reports quietly. Someone's been tracking social media mentions of Ghost Rider for months. And today's incident triggered coordinated responses across multiple states. Knox Rivera feels his worst nightmares crystallizing into reality as he realizes Maxwell Reaper's network never actually disbanded after Ghost Rider's disappearance. Instead, they've been waiting, watching, preparing for the day their greatest rival would resurface. The underground racing world operates on respect earned through victory and fear maintained through violence. And Ghost Rider's legendary status made her both an inspiration and a target that could never be forgotten. Mr. Rivera, Agent Kim's voice carries the weight of federal authority mixed with genuine concern. We need everything you know about Maxwell Reaper's organization. Our intelligence suggests he's been building something much larger than an underground racing circuit. And your former colleague here might be the key to understanding his ultimate objectives. Indy's phone buzzes again, this time with a photo message that makes Knox's blood turn to ice. The image shows Sage Winters walking home from school, completely unaware that she's being followed by someone on a high-performance motorcycle. The timestamp indicates the photo was taken less than 10 minutes ago, proving that Maxwell Reaper's surveillance network has been monitoring not just Indy's viral emergence, but everyone connected to her current life. They have my friend. Indy's voice carries a deadly calm that Knox recognizes from their underground racing days, when Ghost Rider would calculate impossible risks with mathematical precision. This isn't about racing anymore. This is about making sure I understand the consequences of coming back. Agent Kim's radio crackles with updates from field teams deployed across the city. Agent Kim, we've identified at least 6 individuals with motorcycles positioned at strategic locations around the target's residential area, school, and known hangout locations. This appears to be a coordinated intimidation operation designed to force a specific response. The federal involvement has escalated the situation beyond anything Knox could have anticipated. But he recognizes that Maxwell Reaper thrives on chaos and official attention. The man who once controlled underground racing circuits across 3 states isn't intimidated by FBI badges or federal investigations. If anything, the law enforcement presence probably amuses him, adding another layer of complexity to whatever game he's been planning during 5 years of apparent silence. Principal Matthews approaches with obvious reluctance, her administrative authority utterly meaningless in the context of federal investigations and underground criminal networks. Miss Blackwood, given the circumstances, the school board has decided to suspend all disciplinary proceedings pending resolution of these external factors. Your safety is our primary concern. The ironic timing isn't lost on anyone present. 2 hours ago, the administration was prepared to expel Indy for defending herself against systematic harassment. Now, with federal agents and criminal threats involved, suddenly her safety becomes a priority that transcends institutional politics and donor pressure. Caspian Holloway watches the proceedings from beside his father's Tesla. His earlier bravado completely evaporated as he realizes his morning entertainment has triggered consequences that extend far beyond school discipline. The golden boy who thought he could humiliate a scholarship student for his own amusement now finds himself a minor character in a much larger and more dangerous story. Agent Kim, Knox says urgently. Maxwell Reaper doesn't make idle threats, and he doesn't engage in simple revenge. If he's surfaced after 5 years, it's because he's built something that requires Ghost Rider's participation. The question isn't whether he'll follow through on his threats. It's what he's really planning to accomplish. As if responding to Knox's warning, Indy's phone displays a new message that makes everyone present understand the true scope of what they're facing. Tonight was never about racing, Ghost Rider. Tonight is about completing what should have happened 5 years ago. Riverside Warehouse, midnight. Come alone, or watch your world burn one friend at a time. The choice has always been yours. Agent Kim immediately begins coordinating tactical response teams. While Knox realizes that federal protection might not be enough to save Indy from someone who spent 5 years planning the perfect trap, Maxwell Reaper built his reputation on understanding exactly what motivated his competitors, and he knows that Ghost Rider's greatest weakness was never fear for her own safety, but her willingness to sacrifice everything to protect the people she cares about. The afternoon sun begins its descent toward the horizon as emergency vehicles finally clear from Westfield Academy, leaving behind only tire marks, scattered social media posts, and the lingering questions about what really happened when legends resurface from carefully maintained graves. But in the growing shadows beyond the school's security perimeter, A figure on a powerful motorcycle watches the federal convoy disappear into traffic. His helmet reflecting the last rays of daylight like polished obsidian. Maxwell Reaper has waited 5 years for this moment, and tonight, Ghost Rider will finally understand that some races never really end. They just wait for the perfect moment to claim their ultimate prize. Knox. Rivera's weathered hands tremble slightly as he retrieves an old photograph from his wallet. The edges worn from years of guilty examination. The image shows a younger version of himself standing beside a championship motorcycle. His arm draped around the shoulders of a grinning teenager whose face bears an unmistakable resemblance to the person now known as Maxwell Reaper. Before the underground racing circuit consumed his soul, before the violence and territorial wars, before Ghost Rider's legendary rise and mysterious disappearance, Maxwell Reaper was just Marcus Riley, Knox's most promising protege. Agent Kim, Knox's voice carries the weight of secrets he's carried for too long. There's something else you need to understand about Maxwell Reaper. He wasn't just Ghost Rider's competitor. He was my student first, before everything went wrong. Before the racing circuit turned him into something that feeds on violence and revenge. The revelation adds another layer of complexity to an already impossible situation. Knox trained both riders, watched them develop their skills under his guidance, and bears responsibility for creating the two most legendary figures in underground racing history. The mentor who taught them everything they know about speed, control, and survival now finds himself caught between his former students in a confrontation that's been building for half a decade. Agent Kim's expression hardens as she realizes the full scope of what they're dealing with. This isn't just about underground racing or federal cybercrimes investigations. This is about a master manipulator who spent 5 years orchestrating the perfect revenge against the only person who ever made him feel vulnerable, using every psychological weapon at his disposal to force Ghost Rider back into a game where the stakes have escalated, far beyond teenage pride or racing glory. As the federal convoy disappears around a corner carrying Indy toward what might be temporary safety, Knox stares at the empty street where tire marks still mark the spot where legends collided with reality. Tonight, the real race begins, and he knows that no matter how this ends, the student who became Maxwell Reaper will finally get his chance to finish what started 5 years ago, in a crash that was never really an accident. The shadows grow longer as evening approaches, and somewhere in those shadows, Maxwell Reaper begins the final preparations for a confrontation that will determine whether Ghost Rider's resurrection becomes triumph or tragedy.